Season 0 has been here for about a week, and with it came quite a lot of changes to the Battle Royale formula, but after getting a pretty good read of it after ranked in scrims, I'm now confident to rank all of the characters from worst to best this season. So let's start with the D tier characters, Shrike and Aluna. Shrike is easily the worst character in the game. She gets outclassed hard by Myth in this meta, and struggles when getting overwhelmed by any character, especially characters like Brawl and Oath. She does piss poor damage and pretty much just doesn't really do anything for the team outside of her scout that does have anti-heal, but it's just not consistent or frequent enough. Sadly, Shrike is just bad after you climb out of just a couple of games. Next up, we also have Aluna, who has also been in D tier for quite a long time, and it's just the same story as Shrike. She just isn't really that good. She's not really as horrible as Shrike is when you start climbing, but the thing is that she does get outclassed in every single way by Zeph. She doesn't really provide any utility to the team, but to be fair, she does do decent damage compared to other characters, and for what she does as well. So the thing is that even with that one pro, all of the other cons outweigh every other character in the game, so you're pretty much better off with any other character above her in tiers. So let's talk about that next tier. We have Void and Celeste that make up the C tier. Now, the thing is with Void is that he's just not really that bad of a character at all, and the same thing goes for Celeste in the C tier. This isn't a tier that means they're bad. It's just that, you know, there's other characters that are insanely busted over top of them. So the thing with Void is that he can pressure through walls, which not really any other characters can do, aside maybe Myth with her Rain of Arrows, but he is really good at countering dive heroes. There's just one problem. It's so much harder to counter the dive heroes than to just play the dive heroes. And why play Void when you could just pick up Brawl and do it better than the other Brawl? It's just so much easier and more accessible to do, whereas Void is harder to play around and harder to play as. And, you know, Celeste struggles with pretty much the same problem. Why play Celeste when Oath exists? Oath, though, is a little bit harder to pull off now after the nerfs, so that makes Celeste a little bit more approachable, but the thing is that Oath is still going to overcome her at the end of the day. While she isn't really as nearly bad as she was in previous patches, Celeste just isn't a Thanos character that she used to be, and there's just other characters that are better. So moving on into the B tier, we have Jewel, Hudson, Bebo, and Bishop. Jewel is a really strong character until Oath is in the fight, and he's been seeing a lot of play recently even after his nerfs. Usually this would make her D tier, but because Oath is easier to deal with because of those nerfs we just mentioned, and the shield isn't as strong, you know, it's easier to counter him, which means Jewel is a lot more playable. If you can manage to stack up your enemies, it can be absolutely insane to just dash through them all. The only thing stopping you is an Oath shield, and that's much more manageable. Which brings us into the next hunter. We have Hudson, who did get some love last patch, most specifically a buff to his barbs, and then a reintroduced buff that just took away a nerf, which I'm pretty sure was a bug and they're going to fix, but it really isn't all that crazy, to be honest. It does make him slightly more viable than the last list that we had, which had him at the rock bottom, and Oath also synergizes with him really well, and he's pretty strong. He's just honestly in the perfect spot, even after we're reintroducing those nerfs, taking those away, I should say. He's not that bad. He's actually pretty much a smack dab in the middle character. He's not bad to play. He's not horrible to play against, and he's pretty easy to counter if you know what you're doing. So I actually like where Hudson is, and I hope he stays kind of where he is for quite some time. Now let's talk about the new hunter, Bebo. He's really, really good at anti-dive. The thing is, even though he is really, really good at anti-dive, he just still isn't good enough, and that's really sad to say because he, after all, is the newest character to be added to the game. The thing is that he just doesn't have enough tools to stop dive by himself, and on top of that, when he does use those tools, Oath Shield is just too much for Bebo to handle. I think Bebo is a really solid character. He just isn't quite overpowered that other people wanted him to see, and it's going to take some time until we see a player that's really good at Bebo. But now let's move on to our sleeper pick at the top of the B tier, which is Bishop this patch. There is one thing from keeping her super insane meta this patch, and that's Brawl. She has arguably the second best wisp stomping potential in the game, and once Brawl goes out, Bishop is in my opinion. Also, she's amazing at dealing with the Oath, just she isn't quite overpowered. And overall, people are sleeping on this character. Yes, she is B tier because there's other characters that are better, but I'm telling you, there will be a patch where she shoots up to the top of S tier if things go the right way for her, but only time will tell. So now we're moving on to the A tier where we have Jin, Ghost, Kingpin, Felix, and Shiv. And now we're seeing some characters that are pretty darn consistent in ranked and in scrims. Now, I know the A tier has changed quite a bit since the last list, but hear me out. Power is so easy to get early now in the game with the global shop and all the other changes they added with Season 0. And that's what's making characters like the Felixes and the Jins shoot up in value super fast early in the game. Right now, Jin is just a budget brawl in ranked. He's great at confirming kills and one of the better solo queue legends if you're looking to just climb by yourself. The thing is, he is just hard with no anti-heal or wisp stomping potential, and Brawl has all of that, which is why Brawl is going to be placed higher than Jin. Moving on though, we also have Ghost, who's another character that can be great in the right hands. I don't think he is quite insane like S tier, but he's still really good at pressuring Oath players, especially if they aren't very good at Oath. On top of this, Ghost also does some pretty darn consistent damage, and he only really struggles because he has a lack of anti-heal. If he did have anti-heal in his kit, I could see him being an S tier character. But now we're moving into the other options. We have Kingpin, who will always be solid. The hook guarantees picks in late game scenarios, and he also has one-shot potential if you decide to run double damage like most people should be running. His ultimate also has anti-heal, which is really nice in terms of a utility perspective, and the only reason why he's not S tier is because he just doesn't have invisibility being as OP as he was before. The thing is, he's still just an absolute menace. Kingpin is definitely a solid pick and will probably continue to do so until release and beyond. So now we have Felix, the off-meta hunter you want to play if you hate what you see in S tier, which I know a lot of people do. And the reason for this is because he can mark and deal with Brawl if he needs to, and he also has the most consistent anti-heal in the game, and a lot of people are running a lot of healing in their comps. So because of this and the solid damage, he synergizes well with other characters that are pretty good right now. He just isn't as strong as Oath, and that's why we're seeing Felix in the A tier instead of the S tier. So that brings us to the last of the A tier, the off-meta hunter duo of Shiv with the Felix. She has the best anti-heal in the game alongside Felix and can pretty much decimate any team that she manages to get on top of. On top of this, she does a really good job of countering Hudson and Oath compositions, mostly because, I mean, they're not very mobile, and it's also really easy just to reset your dash off of Oath's shield when you shoot it as Shiv. The thing about Shiv is that she just counters how many teams are stacking right on top of each other with her ultimate, and it just makes her an overall really solid hunter. The thing is that when you see the S tier, you might understand why she isn't quite there. You could maybe argue that she should be there, but she just isn't quite as consistent as what's in the S tier. So let's talk about that. The S tier is made up of Myth, Brawl, Zeph, and Oath. These characters are simply just insane and are a clear bar ahead of everybody else. Myth has the most consistent range damage in the entire game. She also has great utility, good survivability, and no real weakness besides low health, and that doesn't really matter if they're all just dead before they get on top of you. That then brings us into Brawl, who is still insane after the nerfs. He doesn't get empowered as quick, and the thing is though is that that doesn't really matter because a good Brawl player will still eventually get empowered. And once he is empowered, he is still just going to absolutely stomp in you. Now, here's the thing. Now the team actually needs to provide space in order for the Brawl to get empowered on an enemy team. So it does make him harder to carry with. But the thing is that he still is the hard carry hunter, and there isn't really another hunter that can do it as well as Brawl. That leads us into Zeph. And why is Zeph insane this patch, you might ask? They accidentally reverted his heal nerf, just like they reverted the Hudson nerf on accident. And that now means that he has no delay between his heals, meaning he can just burst heal people out of damage like he used to before all those nerfs all that time ago. So right now he is a little bit overpowered to say the least. The only thing to stop him is anti-heal this patch, and if this patch gets reverted for him, he is still going to be an A tier character. He is still going to be better than Aluna, and there's still no one else that does the job that he does. It's just that right now, he does it a little bit more than he should be able to, is the nicest way that I can put it. He is probably the main reason why Oath is a problem right now. So let's talk about Oath. Let's talk about the Thanos character this patch. That is Oath. And, you know, sure, his shield is paper mache and it gets melted in a fraction of a second, but a great Oath player will know what to block and what not to block, what to position, where to position, all of these other things. A good Oath player is going to know what to do. So now the meta is just to run double damage and nuke people on Oath before they have a chance to fight back. I do have a gameplay video on the alternate channel showing just how egregious it is to be playing Oath this way right now. I mean, you're dropping 30,000 damage a game easily. And the reason why he can do this is because Zeph can just pocket heal him, enabling him to just run through teams when no one is really running anti-heal right now. Now, if people start running Felix, maybe this could change, but even then, I seriously doubt that that's going to stop him one bit. I play Zeph and Oath, and I can still see that they are problematic and need some heal sickness or something to prevent burst healing comps in the future. So if you want to play the best character, play Oath, watch the guide that I'm going to be putting out this week on the character. Trust me, you're going to be climbing in no time if you play this character and can master him. So that's all the hunters on the first Season 0 patch. Honestly, this balance of the game is not that bad. Like, I know I was bashing it a little bit, but it's not as bad as it realistically could be. It's just that a couple hunters really mess everyone else up. So once those key players get fine-tuned, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of meta diversity, especially in the highest level of play, which is super interesting. So one more patch, think about it, one more patch and we are a complete shift in the meta away from making this game even more exciting than it already is. So let me know what you guys all think of this season so far, but until next time, I've got to peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.